Don't do anything dumb now.
So, cute.
Are you gonna play music while we dance?
Yay, for you.
I'm ready. Okay, so I'm going first. I'm Dr. Jon Harmon. I have been a practicing chiropractic physician for 35 years. We had some things happen that shifted me onto a different course to try to help people with brain issues. And so I have a practice now in town called Clear Mind, Idaho. I'm talking about the brain tonight. Some of the most important, latest research about how the brain works. Try not to get too geeky about it. So I want to make it something that's really meaningful, that you'll actually be able to implement some of the things I'm going to show you to reset the default mode in your brain. So that's what I'm talking about.
Hello, my name is Phil Mcdaniels. I'm the owner of Breakthrough Personal Training. I've been changing people's lives through fitness and nutrition for 23 years. Woo! A long time. I know, these guys are the same age.
So you started when you were 3 years old.
Yes. I've been doing it since I was 3, yeah. So I'm here to talk about a very important topic that I'm passionate about, and that is the importance of skeletal muscle mass when it comes to body composition. I feel like as a society, we have the information we've been told about weight management and goals are all wrong. So I'm here to set the record straight tonight.
All right.
Hello everyone, my name is David Cruz from Total Metabolic Solutions, and for the first part of my life, I was that one guy in the gym industry that used to tell you, it doesn't matter how you eat or what you eat. As long as you exercise like a barbarian, you'll be fine. But unfortunately, with my scare back in 2016 with diverticulitis, I quickly learned that food is extremely important. And just like Dr. Harmon and Phil here, we're going to talk a lot about misconceptions and misinformation about nutrition and how it supports us in many different ways, such as food. Most people view food as merely energy. When we understand that it's more than just energy, food tells our DNA which hormones to produce. When we understand that, it affects our brain and our body. So, brain, body, and blood sugar levels. We're here to help you out.
All right, it's all yours.
Thank you. All right. In 2001, brain researchers wanted to figure out or find out what happens in the brain as far as blood flow is concerned when we have people think certain things and activate different parts of the brain. That wasn't until 2001, so this is pretty recent research. And so what they did PET scans and functional MRIs, and then they instructed these participants to do something, think of something. If anybody's been in an MRI, you know that you're not moving around, so they're not doing physical stuff, but they're just thinking stuff. What happens to the blood flow in the brain when they think that thing? And it doesn't seem to be working now. Maybe unplug it. That went off, I think.
It's working. Here, I'll unplug and replug. Or we hit it with a hammer. One of the two.
Yeah, it's on.
Oh, I see.
Yes, here.
All right, I'll let you do it.
Okay.
Next screen?
Yeah. We went a little too far. Go back. This one, okay.
There we go.
So, back to the story. So they had these people, they're thinking certain things, they're observing what happens to blood flow through the PET scan, through the functional MRI, and then waited a little while, and they noticed that, oh my gosh, when these people aren't doing anything, the same networks in the brain become active. This was new to brain researchers because they thought that the brain only did certain things when we're telling it to do certain things. But then these networks would come on. Next slide. So, that is what we're going to be talking about. It's called the default mode network. Hello, I'm Dr. Jon Harmon, and this is just some stuff about me. I already told you, 35 years. I'm board certified in QEEG and neurofeedback. Father of 10, 8 of them are mine, 2 a step. Baby, I'm gonna put you on the spot. She's my oldest granddaughter right here. Grandfather of 27, 23 of those are mine. Next slide.
Let's see if this works.
Is that working now?
Yeah, it worked.
No, the.
Yep.
Okay, great.
It just worked.
All right. Founder of Clear Mind, Idaho. There's my contact information. I'm also presidential director in a company called LifeWave. We have the phototherapy patch, but coming soon to Netflix is a documentary about a new water unit that is going to change the way we think about water because the inventor figured out how to store light therapy in the water, and then you drink it, and then your organs get therapy from the inside out. Any information needed on that, you can get in touch with me. I've written a couple of books about peptides. I want you to pay close attention to that copper peptide. That has a huge effect on the brain. The other one is about another peptide called epithalamin. The synthetic form is called epitalin. That's what the research has been done on. We're not going to talk about that tonight. Tonight we're talking about the default mode network in the brain. This is a collection of things that were perceived by you to be important. One of the most important discoveries in neuroscience in the last decades was this discovery that the brain gets really active when you aren't active. When you're bored. We'll talk about that. So, it's your sense of self from your parents, from your peers, from trauma, from abuse. All of those things form this really important folder in our brain, important stuff. So, it's either like really, really important or very, very emotional. So, important stuff. I remember the tone of my dad's voice, or my teacher, or my friend. She called me fat. One of mine was my brother made fun of me in front of our friends for wetting the bed. Stuff like that, it seems really important when you're a kid. So we put it in this folder in our brain, important stuff. A network of interconnected brain regions that are active during rest, but when the brain's not doing anything, they fire up. You know, we're talking about remembering stuff. So, internal cognitive processes. Self-referential thinking, that's, what do I think about myself? And a lot of times it's based on false things from what other people said or what other people did, but it's still my sense of self. Autobiographical memory, recall, daydreaming, planning for the future. Now, these next few slides, we're going to talk about the brain areas that control that. I don't expect you to remember them all, and you shouldn't. Only sick people do that. Sick minds remember brain areas. But the reason I'm showing you these, telling you about these named places where we know things are processed is because all of this starts to become real, and then you'll understand that there's a way of resetting that, and that's my message tonight is all of this stuff, there's a way of resetting this. So this is where it is. This doesn't have a laser, does it? This is kind of the 30,000 foot view of this one in the next slide. If this right here, the nose. So prefrontal cortex, these are different areas. They all came on when the participants in this study weren't doing the things they were asked to do. They go, what the heck is that? That's your, wait, what? Moment. This is the 30,000 foot view. Processes autobiographical information, activates in the absence of a pressing task. I'm bored, I'm doing nothing, here it comes. Supports mind wandering, or in some people, rumination. If it's negative stuff, if it's too much negative stuff, and I'm thinking about this, I suck at this, and this, and this, and I remember people made fun of me, whatever it is. Communication with language and speech areas may give rise to internal monologue. What is my self-talk? Okay, first one, there are 5 core components of this system. Medial prefrontal cortex, self-referential thinking, self-judgment, oh boy, information about oneself, personality traits, likes, dislikes, and goals. It's a hub for integrating emotional and self-related information. This is when you think about this, it assigns value and emotional tone to thoughts about oneself. Oh man, I gotta remember this. All these thoughts about myself. Example of effects on you. Reflect on past failures. Do I overly blame myself for stuff that happened? It may become hyperactive and contribute to negative self-perception. Okay, second core component, posterior cingulate cortex. PCC, heavily involved in autobiographical memory, retrieval, and self-reflection, allows us to construct a narrative, so the whole story of past experiences, and connect to present self. Posterior cingulate cortex, crucial for maintaining a sense of continuity of the self across time, links memories to one's identity and helps monitor self-related thoughts. Here's how it works. If we're recalling happy, meaningful life moments, loving relationships, accomplishments, those things will strengthen the positive aspect of that PCC. Or if we have a focus, if we're always focused on the humiliating or the traumatic events, that leads to self-critical thoughts. Okay, so third core component, linked to semantic processing, language, and integrating different types of information into a whole. So combining the sensory and memory related things, so emotional things would go in that. So this angular gyrus supports the integration of self-referential content, emotional tone, by allowing one to create a unified sense of identity and meaning. So here's an example of dysfunction. If someone constantly perceives external criticism or negative comments, even jokes, why did I put that in there? Because saying something to someone or hearing something from someone, even said as a joke, programs this part of the brain. Hey, gosh, you look fat in that. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, you look kind of weird today. Or joking like that is a way of controlling people in kind of a supposedly light thing, or joking about oneself. Gosh, whatever. I don't even want to say things. But this is really important because these things help integrate into a generalized self-image of I'm not good enough in this area of the brain. This is a dysfunction. Fourth and second to the last, hit the hippocampus. That's where Short-term memory is stored as well. But this is vital for episodic memory formation retrieval. Allows us to access past experiences. Interesting side note, researchers haven't figured out where long-term memory is stored yet. Smart people think it's stored in the crystal structure of water. Because water does not exist in a liquid form in our body. When you shake your arm, you don't feel water sloshing back and forth. It's actually in a crystal structure. So that's where they think long-term memory is coming from.
Can you repeat that? It's just
Is
too
that
good not to get. Yeah.
That's deep.
One more time.
I love it.
Long-term memory.
You want me to say that again?
Yeah.
Okay. Researchers haven't figured out where long-term memory is stored. And really, really smart people who know that water has memory, they've taken pictures of it. They think that that is stored, that's where long-term memory is stored. And water in a crystal form, a gel, it's like a gel inside of our body. People say, well, what about the bladder? That's a bag full of liquid that's about to get out. That's not water in your body. It doesn't exist in that form. But it surrounds our genes in that crystal form, and they think that's where a lot of communication for long-term memory.
Yay.
That's not on a slide, by the way.
Just in the brain or all over the body?
All over the body. Okay, so here's some examples of how this can affect us negatively. Repeated exposure to positive experiences, feeling loved, supported, reinforces neural patterns that promote self-worth. We're going to use this in a minute. Traumatic experiences may distort the patterns and lead to hypervigilance and negative biases about myself. So, again, it's our perception of ourselves. Last core component, and then we'll get into the fun stuff. This is involved in attention to self-related thoughts and distinguishing myself from others. You have to have a story. You know, I lived in Utah, I lived in Chicago, I moved to Fresno, I moved to Boise. No, I went to, you have to remember all that stuff. Otherwise we forget who we are, and this helps us distinguish ourselves from others. Okay, one of the most important things here is it allows us to step back and reflect on ourselves and also the external environment. This is crucial to not be self-judgmental, because this helps us put things in context. Everybody makes mistakes instead of dwelling on our mistakes all the time. Did that. I'll never get over that. Overemphasize self-focus leads to that negativity. So, I want you to ask yourself, what were the messages I received as a child from parents, teachers, peers, siblings? Can't see that one slide, but in my childhood, did I receive a lot of praise? Did I receive love? Even after failure. That leads to the thought, I am valuable and capable. Conversely, if I had really critical caregivers, neglectful caregivers, that leads to I'm not good enough. So let's take a little trip, reminisce a little bit. What about my parents? Were they harsh discipline? Did I receive harsh discipline? Mistakes made in your life, associated with guilt, shame, all of those things. Trauma, was there abuse by my family, my friends, positive or negative? So, here's what happens. We're done with the 5 core components. Here's what happens. When you're not doing anything, hey, you're not doing anything, let's go search through those files. Remember this? Where are those files? That looks really important. Oh, that file right there. That says important stuff on that. I'll go look at that. I'm searching for something. Is it positive or negative? Let's take a trip down memory lane. Here comes the file. Here's your important stuff. Oh, something happened that side. It got screwed up during the email, right? This says, remember when? And it's either going to go, do you remember the 21st night of September? Or it's going to be, oh, my friends, empty chairs and empty tables, and my friends will sing no more. It's going to be what's in that file that it's go searching for. What did you put in there? Or what did other people put into it? Your failures. What did my mom say? Remember when your mom said that? Remember when your dad said that? This is what happens. It starts searching through those files. I can't see my slide. So, what's in your important stuff file? I know you know what it is. I'm not going to ask you. So it's mostly it's positive things or it's negative things. The trauma that happened to you. We go back and we search through the file. So here's the great news. You can actually replace the things in the file with things that you want to be there. This is the neuroscience behind meditation and focusing and some of the work that Bill Dovell does with tapping. So the key is we have to make those files more noticeable than the stuff that's already in there. So you got to make a bigger file. And you have to bring your brain's attention to it over and over and over again so that that's where it looks and not at the stuff that you perceived as important earlier or very, very emotional. Okay. What's in your important stuff file? Anybody like to change it? I know I wanted to for a long time. So here are some ways that you can change that. And just know that we're not going to go through all of those things. So we're going to combine them, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Mindfulness meditation. I'm not going to read through all these. Cognitive behavioral therapy. That's where it challenges your distorted self-referential beliefs. Kind of goes back to these brain areas. Physical exercise. So I talk to some people and they say, I really love baking. It just makes me feel so good. I feel good while I'm baking or painting or doing crafts and arts. The reason is it quiets the default mode network when we're doing things. Working out is one of those things. Sometimes, and people, Phil, you probably know, people who have had a lot of trauma, they're in the gym a lot. Because it distracts their default mode network and it doesn't go there to that trauma stuff. Physical exercise, positive self-affirmation and gratitude. Another way of doing that. That's the engaging in focused tasks, working out, doing things you love to do, running. When you're not doing something, your default mode network comes on. So that's why a lot of people who've had a lot of trauma, they just want to be busy, they just want to do stuff. Because then that part of the brain doesn't go on. So here is a combination of almost all of those things on that other slide. So how can you make the things you want to put in that folder seem more important than the stuff that's in it? And it has to be repetitive, and it has to be, we need to use multiple parts of our brain, lots of our senses, to get to that point where it's more important. So when your brain opens up that filing cabinet, the important stuff you put there seems a lot more important than the stuff that got there without your consent. So here's how you do it. You have to get in a quiet place. Write what you want to be in your file. Whatever it is, write it down, read it silently, read it aloud. And then be still, focus on the emotion of having that, and then do it again. Write it down, read it silently, read it aloud, focus on that. You might only be able to do one a day unless you have a long period of time, because you're going to do this at least 10 times. You're going to write it down, read it silently, read it aloud. Aloud it's more kinesthetic. You're using your muscles and the speech. And so you're using more things, and when you sit silently and you visualize that thing with emotion, it starts to build. This seems like this is really important stuff to her or him. Maybe I should pay more attention to that. And so then you go to the next one, you go to the next one. If you do enough of those things, you will have a big old tab when your brain goes there. This is my important stuff. And it will remind you, and that's where it will go. You don't have to cut out or unprogram your brain. You just have to make something more important for you, what you want to focus on. So, go out and make some new files. Thank you.
Tell who's got a good joke. Oh, Victoria, you got a good joke. Give us a good joke. This is our intermission.
Bring the joke.
Oh my gosh, one that I haven't already used.
Oh, I like the one too.
You know this part of my icebreaker before I start?
What was that?
You part of my icebreaker. Before I say your joke is. So.
But some people have already heard this one.
Okay, I didn't hear
So this is appropriate from the water goddess.
Okay.
Okay. Did you know there are 2 reasons you don't want to drink toilet water? Number 1 and number 2.
I love it.
I will remember that until you die.
I love it.
Sorry, I'm just
See if this working? This one? Okay. How's everyone doing? Good. The people at home, thank you for tuning in. I gave my introduction earlier. My name is Mcdaniels. I'm going to be talking about why muscle is more important than you think. Now, I have some things on this PowerPoint to flip through, and you know, all the stuff that you can get from an educational perspective. But when it comes to this topic, my life has literally been a case study. I told you I've been a trainer in fitness for over 23 years. I document everything I do from when I first started. When I was that kid who wanted to be a personal trainer, carrying a bag of cables, going on a train in Chicago, they call it the L. Anybody familiar with the L? They call it that. To now, from personal training to group training, I have documented videos and photos and information from all of these people I've worked with over the last couple of decades, and it's thousands of people. So when I get this information and then compare it to what I had before I learned the information, it's almost like you're seeing something scary. It's like, oh my God, this was right in front of me the entire time that I didn't know it. Because 15 years into being a personal trainer, I felt like any other personal trainer. I put on my muscle for look. And I know it'll make you healthy, but I put it on for look. The reason why I wanted to put on muscle personally is because I was that thin kid fighting in the streets of Chicago, and I wanted to put on some muscle to protect myself. I didn't know it was going to be my career. So as I got further along in my career, I started to understand the longevity of it. And it was like a default for me because I wanted to look a certain way. And now that I'm a lot older, I'm still doing things even better than I did 20, 30 years ago. And I didn't know the significance of skeletal muscle mass. And I want to hone in on this point for everyone today. It matters more than you think. Oh, excuse. Okay. No wonder Harmon was over here. Okay, let's see if this works. Where?
Is it getting all funky again?
So I have the different body types on there for a reason. All right. Why muscle matters more than you think. I'm not going to read it all. I want you guys to glance. Muscle is more than strength. It's essential for health, metabolism, and long life. Long life. Who knew that your quadricep muscle is one of the biggest predictor of how long and how well you're going to live? The quadriceps. See, I knew Harmon knew that. Your quadriceps. Strong quads even give you a lower risk of dementia. All this stuff I found out later in life, and I'm like, really? I got strong quads? By default. After age 30, we lose 3 to 5% of muscle mass per decade. Now, this line right here, I put in later. Because that's the most important one. After the age of 40, we lose 10% per decade. I remember putting something on social media. I don't know if you guys see my social media, but I give a lot of supplement advice. And I was encouraging ladies, you need to start supplementing with creatine. But what have we heard about creatine? It's for bodybuilders, it's for men, it's for that. That's all the feedback I got. But creatine is good for every single person in this room because of this factor right here. You lose 10% of muscle per decade. Now, when it comes to personal training, my current clientele, 50% of them are over the age of 70. 50%. So with me knowing this information, and I train a lot of seniors, it's even a more passionate experience for me to put this information out. Now I have seniors, 70 years old, doing boxing, kickboxing, deadlifting. I show them exercises that I call pick up the box and put it on the shelf. So just say I do a squat and then a press, right? That's picking up a box, putting it on the shelf. That's literally what it is. So I'm giving my seniors the education that this matters more than anything in fitness. And I just want to point out that whatever you thought was the key to weight management, this is the catalyst. Skeletal muscle mass. We live in a world where we have been told that you work out more and you eat less. Whoever put that out there should be brought up on charges.
Amen.
That is incorrect. The more you work out, the more you move, the more your calories need to increase. Especially proteins and fats, which David will, do a deep dive in after me. So, your calories should match the way your body expends energy. I have tons of people that come to me because they haven't reached their body goals, but they're active 4 days a week, 5 days a week, 6 days a week. You know what the people who are regularly active and they work out 5 or 6 days a week and still haven't seen their body goals, you know what they have in common? Can anyone tell me what they have in common? Who said that? What I hear over here?
They don't lift.
Who said that?
Sherry.
Boom! Sarah! I've always been that person to I'm against HIIT training regularly. I'm against anything that's high intensity regularly. I used to be a marathoner myself. When you do too much HIIT, when you do too much cardio, and don't pair that with just as much strength training, that will eat into your muscle. It has to be balanced. And strength training needs to go first. I'm gonna come back to that. Low muscle mass, higher risk of chronic disease, frailty, and loss of independence. Like I said, I work with a lot of 70-year-olds. I'm seeing this. I have 70-year-olds that function like a 40-year-old, but I also work with people who can't walk, period. I have a client that I'm helping recover from a stroke. I have a client that was in a car accident that can't move the left side of her body. These are the people I'm working with to help them gain their independence. And the thing that I'm noticing, especially with my stroke client, is that while he's getting all his medical care, he's getting great care, but there's one thing that I noticed. He had a stroke 3 years ago. Why? So the left side, I'm trying to help him, get things back going the way it was on his left side. Because you know how it is when a person has a stroke. Why is his right side weaker than his left? So I noticed. So when he's getting treatment on the things that isn't working, but he's getting absolutely nothing on the side that is working. He's losing skeletal muscle mass. Think about if someone loses a ligament. I see them on social media all the time. Person has one leg and they're still squatting and lifting weights. You got to work both sides of the body. So you guys get where I'm going with that point right there. Okay? Muscle is the body's reservoir for healing and repair during illness and injury. This couldn't be further from the truth. I'm going to share a story. And it's kind of funny because there's a few people in here that know my issue with being pulled over by the police in Idaho. I get talked about all the time. But I'm going to give you a story. About 12 years ago, 11, 12 years ago, I used to be a marathoner, like I said. Not full marathons, half marathons. I ran like 18 of them in 2 years. And I was that guy who used to run in 15, 20 degrees in Chicago. So if it's 15 degrees in Chicago, with the wind chill factor, that's below zero. So I was a cold weather runner. It was so cold one day that a bus pulled up beside me and they started clapping. It was like he's the only idiot out here as well. So anyway, that day, there was this street full of cars. And you know how you get stuck in traffic, but you got the cars on the turning, about to make a left turn. So I'm looking, about to cross. The drivers that I'm crossing, hey, this traffic jam, go ahead. I go. And then that car that turned the turning lane popped me. I flew in the air, went through the windshield with my shoulder. True story. Went through the windshield with my shoulder. Ambulance come out, they strapped me up, neck, whatever. Rushed me to the hospital. Long story short, I was out of the hospital in 2 hours. I walked out of there. Nothing was wrong. I had 2 scrapes on my knees. The doctors were baffled. One of the doctors came in and said, what saved me was my muscle mass and the fact that my body was compressed because I was a cold weather runner. I had a compression gear. That's what saved me. So when I learned this information, I'm like, wow, how many people would have had that information? Who had a situation and survived it? So when I think about this stuff, I think about back to that moment, like, okay, I'm sure something was looking down on me, but that's wild. I think about that all the time when I talk about skeletal muscle mass. All right, I got a lot of stories. This is another one I put in later. Metabolism. We all know what metabolism is, but in case some people don't, the chemical processes that occur within a living organism to maintain life. I put this in because this right here says it all. Without strength training, weight loss often includes muscle loss and a slowing metabolism. It's like I mentioned earlier. Without strength training, it includes muscle loss. If we go to our in-bodies, some of you guys got on the scale, and I referenced the words, you are a physical specimen. Who did I say that to? I know Dana and this young lady here, this is your in-body right here? Okay. So, if you look at my chart right here, I know it's dark, but can we see this chart? You see how where the weight goes, it dips down and then come back up to where it says body fat percentage? That's a C. You see it's a C right here. It goes down and come back up. The middle needs to exceed both of the other ones. This needs to exceed both of those. So what I'm trying to say is your skeletal muscle mass from the in-body perspective need to exceed total weight and body fat mass. The majority of people have the C curve. So when I see somebody with a D, especially ladies with a D, it's celebrated. Because that shows how much skeletal muscle mass was built from strength training. We'll come back to this in a moment. Two people of the same weight. One with more muscle burns 100 to 200 more calories daily. That is the truth. When we're still thinking cardio is what burns. It's muscle mass that burns. And too much cardio burns into the muscle mass. Muscle helps sustain long-term weight management through metabolic support. Muscle support, balance, coordination, and bone strength.
Hold. Technical pause.
Mm-hmm.
And
All right.
there.
Low muscle mass increases the risk of type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, immune dysfunction, longer recovery from illness. Having high skeletal muscle mass is a lot of things that I didn't have to deal with in life that I didn't know I needed the skeletal muscle mass for until I learned it. Muscle is your best defense for staying strong, mobile, and independent as you age. So I want everyone in here to think one thing. The next time you're working out, the next time you have any goals whatsoever, I don't care if you want to be a marathoner, I don't care if you want to lose weight, I don't care what it is. Do it from a muscle mass perspective. And sometimes if you step on that scale and it goes up, that's to be celebrated. Especially if you've been strength training. So if you've been strength training 3 or 4 times a week and you go on that scale and it goes up, the average person freak out. The average person freak out, oh no, I gained weight. You want to gain weight, especially skeletal muscle mass, because that's going to be the baseline. So this chart right here, this skeletal muscle mass on this individual is 42.6. This person needs to gain weight. I had 2 ladies come into my gym. One was significantly thinner, and one was heavier. The heavier one wanted to work with me because her goal was losing weight. The friend was thinner, and she wasn't sure. She was like, oh, I'm going to see what my friend does, and then I'll come back or think about it. They both did an in-body scan. The heavier one was disappointed because she was looking at that total weight. I think she was like, I don't know, 170 or something like that. And she was so disappointed, and the friend was like 125, something like that. But the friend had 42 pounds of skeletal muscle mass. She had 70. She was a specimen like this young lady here. What's your name?
Amber.
Amber? You're a specimen. You're a physical specimen. You are? And Danny is too. Yeah. You guys are supposed to, and this young lady right here, same thing. Exceptional skeletal muscle mass. So, the thinner one made the comment and said, no, the one who wanted to work with me made the comment and said, they were talking about something, and she said, girl, I would kill to look like you. And I'm looking at their scans, I'm like, no, you're much healthier. That's the way I'm looking at it. Because we're stuck in the mirror society. That's what we're stuck in. We're stuck in, how do I look now? We're not thinking 30 years from now. And that's the point I try to get out to a lot of people. Skeletal muscle mass is the most important thing that you want to have in front of you when you're going through any goal. When I was a marathoner, I burned a lot of my skeletal muscle mass. Burned a lot of it. But at the same time, I was strength training, so it wasn't that bad. But when I was thinking about the other runners, and I'm hanging out with the other runners, I'm looking at what they're eating and things like that, they were seriously under-eating. It was unreal how they were under-eating. And that causes long-term problems when it comes to your mobility as you age. So think skeletal muscle mass. Did I read this already? Okay. So, what I would like everyone in here to do is, even if it's not through me, if it's your local gym or wherever you go, get an in-body analysis. They even got the more sophisticated scales where they scan your whole body.
That's scary. Sorry.
Yeah, that is scary. They even got those. Find out what your skeletal muscle mass is. Take your home scale. Look at it. And say you're breaking up with it. Throw it in the trash or whatever you want to do. Figure out what your skeletal muscle mass is, and then start your goals from there. Incorporate strength training more than you do HIIT. For example, if you do, just say you work out 4 days a week, at least minimum need to be strength training. But I would say 3 needs to be strength training and 1 need to be HIIT. Now, if you guys do cardio, that can be incorporated into the strength training days. But I'm just simply saying that the strength training, the skeletal muscle mass needs to be the focus for every single person, because we all want to live until we're 80, 90, 100 years old and still be mobile, still be strong. And I'm done. Thank you. Did I save some time too?
You have 8 minutes, so do you have some Q&A?
Yeah, any quick questions? No? No question? Yes, ma'am.
What is your thoughts on cardio and strength training days? Cardio post strength training? Does that help preserve muscle, or cardio before? Does that matter? What do you think?
You know what's interesting? You know how you study your certifications, and I got like 6 certifications and all that, but I'm literally seeing the metrics change over the decades. I'm like, wait a minute, this book says this because I still have it, and this book says this. Which one is right? And there's a lot of science behind that. I personally believe that you adopt both regimens to bust plateaus. They say the formula is that you never do it pre-workout, you do it post-workout. That's what they say. But I've seen it myself, my own eyes, and I've gotten benefits myself from mixing it up. I would do pre for a few weeks, and then I'll do my cardio after. So that's one of the formulas that is based on the individual. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to kind of add from chiropractic seminar.
Mm-hmm.
What really hit me is one of the instructors said, the number one last straw that sends someone into nursing care is inability to squat their own body weight.
Yes.
Can't get on and off the toilet by yourself. Your spouse, your partner's too old, can't lift you.
Yeah. Yeah, that is totally correct. There's a lot of people who have issues because of, of this concept. And mobility and strength training. That is absolutely correct. I hear that all the time. Yes, ma'am.
Can you paint a picture, if you were trying to describe for someone who had never lifted really, they got a few, 1, 3, 10-pounders at home, what would getting them to begin to pick it up look like? Just paint a little, okay, well you do this and you do this and you do that.
Yeah, it would be the basics. I would say with the light weights, pushing, pulling. Pushing, shoulder press, front raise, side raise, lying down, chest press, those are all pushes. Back fly, rows, those are pulls. And always squat. But I love functional style training when you combine them. If you want to do a shoulder press, give me a squat and then a press. Squat, side raise. Squat, front raise. Squat, 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 squat. Even if it's body weight. Squat, squat, squat. If you just said don't have any weights and you need a workout or whatever, squats and lunges are your best friend. Squats, in my opinion, the 5 best exercises of all time, everything else mimics those 5, which is the squat, the lunge, the sit-up / crunch, the pull-up, and one of the greatest exercises of all time is the plank. If you wake up every morning and hold a plank, your life will change after 30 days. The plank. Just simple. And they have the ones where you just get on this board and you put your phone and they got like the video games where you working your core. I have one. Yeah, you seen that one? Yeah, I have that. Yeah, yes ma'am.
What are your thoughts on fasted cardio?
Woo, man, that's a good question. I love fasted cardio. I do.
Tell us what that means.
Fasting is when you're not eating. So just say you stop eating at 7 o'clock the night before. The morning of 6, 7, 8 o'clock, you still haven't had any food, and then you go right into your cardio. I love fasted cardio. It's one of those things, like I explained about that exercise. The person need to gauge if it works for them. Because the science behind eating before a workout and the science behind fasting, working out fasted, there's some science, and I've seen with my own eyes people see benefits from both, but I am for the fasted. David's for the fasted. I am for the fasted. I think it's better benefits when you do cardio workout fasted. Yeah.
Can I add on to that?
Yes, sir.
So the question is how many carbs and sugars did you have the night before? How many calories did you take in the night before?
That is correct.
That's the question.
Yeah. And when you get up, why don't you knock that home run in for me on that one?
So basically what's happening as you're doing that fasted cardio in the morning, you're simply burning the calories.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So burning calories is a good thing, but what if you are already in fat burning mode? By minimizing the carbohydrates and sugars that you had the night or day or days before.
Is that my time? Anybody else?
No, I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever received a ticket in Idaho though?
So for the people who don't know the story, unfortunately, I've been picked on by the police. I wasn't doing anything. I was going under the speed limit, and I was speeding. Yeah, I was speeding. But I'm the first person who ever admit to speeding, and I didn't get a ticket a few times. I admit to speeding. It was like, sir, you know how fast you was going? I was like, yeah, I drive down the street every day. And they looking at me like, did he really just admit that he broke the law? So they were real cool. So that's what the joke's about. But no, that's the question. No, I never gotten a ticket.
There's more to the story though. It's a lot has to do with your attitude.
That's it.
Oh, because the last one I did, I was singing to the police.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's familiar with the group called The Script? That's my favorite band. And before my last presentation, I was getting ready for singing or whatever, and then, you know, I told the cop that's why I was speeding, because I hit that high note. And told him the truth. So,
What song did you?
this is love. Love is this is love. This is how we do it. This is worth the pain. Remember? This is why we fall down and get back up again.
That's what
Woo!
you said,
This is where the heart lies. This is from above. The love is this. This is love. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, man.
Hello, hello?
Hello.
Hello, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Got here.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. What a wonderful audience. Give yourselves a round of applause. Please give it up for Nikki McGregor. She's absolutely amazing. Dr. Harmon for giving an amazing talk right now about the brain and the importance of it. And Phil Mcdaniels right now, because I have to feed off of his energy, because man, he's amazing. So, my name is David Cruz, founder of Total Metabolic Solutions. Like I said, I was that jackass that was in the gym industry for 20 years telling people that it doesn't matter what you eat. As long as you exercise like a beast, then you'll be fine. So I had a scare back in 2016 where I was diagnosed with diverticulitis, which is inflammation of my GI tract. And after months and months of abdominal cramps and aches and pains, I went to the emergency room for months, in and out. And they put me on antibiotics, told me to have bread, rice, pasta, pudding, shakes, like no food, right? No food. Just, I couldn't believe it. So I had a deep dive because I had to figure out what to do for myself. And at the point, I was completely ignorant about food. I had no idea about food. And after having major pains, they told me that I needed to have emergency surgery. So after being in the hospital for 5 days, they cut out 20% of my colon. And then said, oops, sorry, you still got it. Yeah, I was like, what do you mean I still got it? So they cut out 20% of my colon and then just apologized to me. And once again said for the next 3 to 4 weeks, I just want you to have bread, rice, and pudding. And then 6 to 8 months later, come back and we'll cut out another 15 to 20% of your colon. Yeah, that's what I was told. So to make a long story short, what ended up happening is I contacted a great friend of mine. Now, I didn't know that she was a restorative wellness gastrointestinal health practitioner, aka a gut expert. I had no idea. It was just my intuition to call her because I knew that she was really healthy and she gave a lot of free information to people about gut health. So I ended up giving her a call and she said, well, David, if you want to survive without a colostomy bag hanging out at your side, you're going to have to figure out how to heal your gut and then adopt a non-inflammatory nutrition lifestyle. She said, yeah, you gotta adopt a ketogenic lifestyle, right? So to make a long story short, I ended up healing my gut, overcoming it, and grew an amazing passion for sharing this information with many, many people. So the information that I'm going to share with you is unfortunately not widely known. So I have a couple of people that this was inspired by. So I am certified through Dr. Eric Berg with Nutrition Healing, and he is the #1 influencer in the country when it comes to insulin management. Okay, And then also Dr. Mindy Pelz. She is the author of Eat Like a Girl, Fast Like a Girl, and the Menopause Reset. And also Professor Thomas Seyfried, who's an immunologist out of Boston College, and he specializes in cancer, diabetes, and Alzheimer's. And then last but not least, we have Dr. Warren Willie, who's out of Pocatello or Twin Falls, on the opposite side of Idaho. And he has an amazing book. It's called Better Than Steroids. And it's about your body producing the hormones that you need in order to support you. So remember back in 2017, 2018, 2019, when insulin was really, really, really expensive, right? It wasn't only about people with diabetes. It was about sending a message to the bodybuilding industry. That's right. So a lot of people talk about bodybuilders and steroids and all these other hormones that they inject into their bodies. But did you know that insulin can be 5% stronger than testosterone taken at the right time, right before or after your exercise? But we're not here to talk about that today. We're going to talk about a lot of misinformation, a lot of misconceptions around nutrition and how we view it as a society. And I think one of the major issues with that is that food is just so convenient, right? So anyways, the metabolic switch is what we're going to talk about. How to reset your hormones, burn fat, and take back control of your energy. Oh, sorry.
Oh, nothing's moving.
It's all right.
We're froze. Good night. There we go.
Awesome. So what are hormones? Hormones are chemical messengers. And when we eat food, food triggers our body to produce specific hormones. Now, there's so much information out there that there's specific hormones that are either good for us or they're bad for us. There's so much misinformation out there that says that certain foods are good for us or bad for us. The truth is that there's no food out there that's inherently bad for you. What's really important is timing that you're eating it. And of course, eating clean food. When you're eating processed foods and foods that contain all kinds of fillers, yes, that's when food is bad for you, right? The perfect example here is bread. Sourdough bread, right? You know, if you're getting real sourdough bread, the fermentation process in it slows digestion and it slows down the increase of blood sugar levels elevating in your body. So understanding that if you're getting convenient food that is contained with fillers, processed foods, phthalates, that's the difference that makes a difference. So once again, we're starting with the basis that no food is inherently bad, okay? So, hormones are our body's internal messaging system. It communicates with all of our organ systems. We have 11 major organs. On the way over here, I was like, man, there's a lot of stuff that I forgot to put into these slides. So I'm going to add a lot of information as I go. And I think this is really important, right? Because we talk about our major organ systems, but what really are they? And how's an easy way to memorize them? So if you remember the acronym Mrs. Includer, MRSINCLUDER, then you have a better view and observation of the 11 major organ systems in our body, okay? And so hormones influence our mood, our sleep, our hunger, our energy, and our weight. Notice I didn't say weight loss, right? Because weight gain, as Phil illustrated, can be very, very good and very beneficial, right? And then food and eating patterns affect hormones. Like I just mentioned right now, no food is inherently bad depending on when and what time you eat it. You eat them, right? So hormonal imbalances cause a lot of miscommunication in your body. But when your hormones are balanced, then that's smooth communication, okay? Thank you. So what is the metabolic switch, right? So right now, we live under information that was based in 1961. There's information by Mr. Ansel Keys, Mr. Walmart, and Mr. Kellogg's, and said that they visited only 7 countries, and these 7 countries all were doing very well off of a high-carb, low-fat diet. But in actuality, if you watch a documentary called Fat Fiction, okay, there was 23 countries that he visited. But the other countries, he omitted that information where societies were actually thriving off of a low-carb, high-fat diet, okay? So the metabolic switch is restoring our nation's biggest epidemic. Right now, 97% of the US population is resistant to insulin. What does that mean? Every time you eat high glycemic carbs, right? Fake bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, you elevate your blood sugar levels. And that is perfect if you're a bodybuilder, okay? How many bodybuilders do we have in here? 1, awesome. I know, Victoria, you eat those carbs, that puts on that muscle fast and quick. Right? So right now, knowing that 97% of the population is resistant to insulin, understanding that if we're consuming high glycemic carbs on a daily basis, and if it's not focused either before or after your workout, it's not being converted into muscle. It's being converted into fat, okay? Stored fat around your body. So the metabolic switch is to become insulin sensitive, which means you have more balanced insulin, okay? So the metabolic switch is burning fat instead of sugar. So once again, we live in a nation where we count calories versus focus on nutrient density. Let's break that down for a second. Like, what does calories actually mean? It means a unit of energy. Let me ask everybody here, like, how much value does that add to your life? A unit of energy, right? What if you looked at food as nutrient density? Okay, imagine I have this 1 cup of avocado right here. If I told you right now that, hey, this 1 cup of avocado is approximately 300 calories, like, how much information are you really receiving? Oh, that means I have to burn off 300 calories. Is that a lot of information? What if instead you knew that this cup of avocado is 22 grams of monounsaturated fat, which supports cholesterol level, 13 grams of fiber, 7 grams of protein, 850 milligrams of potassium that supports your muscular and your skeletal system, right? 56% of your daily vitamin B5 intake based on a 2,000 calorie diet. 22% of your daily vitamin C intake based on the 2,000 calorie diet, right? When we start understanding that food is information rather than merely calories, then we respect food so much better. But when we're disrespecting food and simply getting convenience, food is disrespecting us, okay? So knowing that there's vitamins and minerals in food, merely than just calorie, gives you more stable energy and mood, okay? When you become insulin sensitive rather than insulin resistant, this is called metabolic flexibility. Has anyone here ever heard, someone say, I have a slow or a fast metabolism?
Yes.
Right, that's insinuating we have 1 metabolism. What if I told you we had 3, right? So metabolic flexibility is the gold standard of metabolism. Oh, I think it worked. It works, all right. So fasting and the power of ketones. So earlier we talked about fasting, right? How many other people hear about the benefits of fasting, right? There's 1,000,001 benefits of fasting. I mean, we can go about it all day for spiritual purposes, for metabolic purposes, for muscle enhancement purposes. Doing it at the right time means everything, right? Timing is everything. So ketones, what are ketones? We hear this all the time ketosis. Like what is ketosis? Right? We think it's a diet. We've been told that ketosis is a diet. It's not a diet. Ketosis is a metabolic state. Matter of fact, it's the metabolic states in which you were born in. Did you know that we're born in ketosis? And for the first 2 years of our life, we're supposed to have a specific food from mother's breast milk to support for brain development. What do you think that constituent is? That's right, fats. But what kind of fat? What's the fat we're told we're supposed to stay away from? Saturated fat. Wow. So you're telling me that we're born in ketosis, and for brain development purposes, we're supposed to be fed saturated fat, yet we're telling everybody that we need to stay away from saturated fat? God, that just kills me inside. Sorry. So, fasting drops insulin. And what is insulin? Insulin is a beautiful, it's the master hormone. It's the hormone in your body that dictates your metabolism. Okay? So, your body makes ketones. And what are ketones? Ketones are an anti-inflammatory molecule that gives you energy, and it is brain fuel. That's right. Have you ever heard someone say, oh, I'm gonna go carb up before my workout? That means they want that physical body energy, because that's what glucose is. Glucose is a physical body energy. It's perfect for bodybuilders, and it's perfect for you right before you go into the gym, okay? But ketones is an anti-inflammatory hormone, okay? Now, stress triggers cortisol. What does that mean? That elevates your blood sugar levels. So once again, we talk about fasting, right? So the whole purpose of fasting is to keep your blood glucose levels down. But what happens if we're stressing while we're fasting? Okay? What's interesting is that our bodies are smart. So smart that it does what we need to do so often to survive. Our bodies are meant to survive. Unfortunately, we have to actually program it, teach it, and educate it to thrive. But our body's default mechanism is survival, which is a beautiful thing, right? So when we're fasting and we're stressed, our liver goes through a process known as gluconeogenesis. What does that mean? That means when you're stressed, you're in a state of fight or flight. So our bodies are smart, right? So what happens is that our liver elevates our blood sugar level, gluconeogenesis, so that we can run away from that tiger or yell at someone over the phone or respond to an email. Everyday activities, right? So understanding that if you know how to exercise right, focus on your thoughts right, meditation, or specific biohacking techniques, or minimizing your carb intake can really help you get that fat burning goals that you want when you're practicing fasted cardio. All right, the gut-brain connection and hormones. So this is so important right here. We talk about brain health, as Dr. Harmon talks so amazing about. I love hearing you talk. It's awesome. But hormones, right? Specific hormones are actually produced in your gut. And serotonin, which is the feel-good, happy hormone that has been, a lack of serotonin has been linked to many conditions such as depression, sadness, anger, fear, so many emotions that aren't quite high frequency. And so when we focus on our gut health, it supports our brain health so much better, right? Poor insulin, or in other words, insulin resistance, can create gut dysbiosis or leaky gut, okay? Gut imbalances cause mood swings and brain fog, right? And gut healing can support with clear thinking and better mood, such as how we just mentioned right now about ketones. Ketones are our brain energy, where glucose is a physical body energy. Okay? hormones that affect hunger and energy. So this is really interesting. I love talking about this. So when we eat carbs and sugars, we elevate our blood sugar levels, okay? Do we know what follows insulin? When you eat carbs and you elevate your blood sugar levels, your body produces insulin. Insulin produces ghrelin. So when you eat carbs and sugars, primarily high glycemic carbs with no nutrition value that are pro-inflammatory, it makes you hungry. Who loves sushi besides me? Right? Have you ever noticed that you go out, you have a whole bunch of white rice or bread or potatoes or sugar? You're hungry even though you're full? How can you be full and hungry at the same time? Isn't that interesting? Well, every time you elevate your blood sugar levels, you produce insulin and you produce more ghrelin. It just makes you hungrier. Now leptin, this one right here. Oh, man. We have an epidemic, not only in insulin resistance, but leptin resistance. You see, when you're on a low-calorie, low-fat diet for too long, what happens is that our gut sends distress signals to our brain telling us that we're still hungry, okay? When you eat plenty of fat and actually eat more, side note, the number one complaint on my program is that it's too much food. I don't put people on a caloric deficit for too long, okay? There's a time and place for that as well, right? So when you eat enough of the right nutrient-dense foods, you get full faster and for a longer period of time. GLP-1. I want to be very careful how I approach this. Okay? I'm going to take a second here and get my mind right. GLP-1 affects your appetite and your insulin. Okay? So, by eating in a specific sequence, you can actually make yourself feel fuller faster. And that's all I'll say about that. So dopamine, also this right here. When you're feeling full, you're feeling less irritated. When you're less irritated, you feel much better more often, even without food. And we're going to go, maybe, we'll go back to that slide. So hormones, fitness, and performance. So high insulin disrupts hormonal balance. Remember how I said earlier there's a book by the name of Better Than Steroids by Dr. Warren Willey. Had a Pocatello or Twin Falls, I don't recall. And he talks a lot about insulin, and he mentions how when you become insulin sensitive, insulin is 5% stronger than testosterone, which is why back in 2018, insulin was so overpriced, because bodybuilders started injecting themselves with insulin to promote muscle growth. Okay? So I'm not here to villainize or demonize insulin. Insulin is a beautiful master hormone that makes sure you don't die every time you elevate blood glucose levels. So basically what insulin does, besides promote hormonal balance, muscle, which is the key to longevity, but it also balances all the rest of the hormones in our body, because the first thing that happens when we become insulin resistant, it creates a cascade of negative effects on the rest of the hormones in our body. So insulin is the metabolic hormone that really dictates how you respond, or the lack of response, to food. Okay? So high insulin just disrupts hormonal balance. In men, it produces low testosterone, fatigue, low drive. We'll just keep it at that. And in women, it creates estrogen imbalance, predominantly estrogen dominance. It affects mood swings, and it's the number one reason why most women experience PCOS and endometriosis. So fixing your insulin, or becoming insulin sensitive, or by doing a short-term ketogenic reset, you can essentially become insulin sensitive, and it's going to support your muscle, it's going to support your brain, it's going to support your energy and your recovery and strength. Okay? So eating in the right order is everything. Okay? So whether you're looking to heal your body internally, okay, or put on muscle, those are two different conversations, right? I love the conversations that Phil and I have all the time. We're constantly supporting one another when it comes to the different mechanisms and the different ways that people should be eating around their exercise. I love exercise. I believe exercise is imperative for your brain, your heart, your lungs, and muscle, because that is the key to longevity, right? But depending on whether you're trying to minimize inflammation, simply focus on your health, burn fat, versus putting on muscle, endurance, and sports performance, those are two different ways of eating, okay? But guess what? You don't have to stick to the same way of eating every single day. Time it around your workout, time it around your rest, and that's the difference that makes the difference. For instance, I'm just going to give a quick example. Every morning when I exercise, I typically have everything I tell 99% of my clients not to have, okay? I specialize in insulin resistance. My goal is to help people overcome inflammation and nutritional deficiencies, okay? So I tell my clients to stay away from everything I just said: bread, rice, potatoes, and sugar. I eat those right before my workout. But guess what? I may or may not have them after my workout, but I promise you, unless it's the weekend, I won't have them at all for the rest of the day. Just fats and proteins, okay? And so eating your fiber and your protein first slows digestion, stabilizes your blood sugar levels, reduces insulin spikes, and boosts fullness hormones like GLP-1. Eating carbs first makes you hungrier. If you're trying to put on weights, if you're trying to promote muscle growth, eat your carbs first. It's going to allow you to eat more so you can put on weight faster, okay? And it increases your insulin spikes. Remember, insulin can be 5% stronger than testosterone when used the right way. Okay. And by eating your carbs first, it's going to minimize your GLP-1. Okay? What does that mean? That means it's going to increase your appetite, which is very important if you're trying to gain weight and promote muscle, right? So, myself and a couple of other people, I'm happy, humbled, and saddened to say that there's only a couple of people in the country that talk about this. And this is a new concept called metabolic switch. I don't have a specific diet. I eat based on what I'm about to do, whether I'm focused on putting on muscle, burning fat, or something like this. Just right now, I broke my fast with blackberries. Okay, I haven't had food all day. But I did that just so that I can be more clear-minded and have a lot more energy, a lot of energy to spare. And so these are the big takeaways that I want people to understand, that insulin is the key to metabolic health. It literally dictates and determines whether you put on muscle or burn fat. Or, once again, the gold standard in metabolism, metabolic flexibility. When you're in a metabolic state of ketosis, you can burn fat and minimize inflammation without, or at rest, okay? And on the other side of that, sorry, okay, did I go back? There we go. All right, so insulin is the key to metabolic health. Sorry, I lost where I was at. So fixing energy can support fixing insulin sensitivity can support energy, clarity, and fat burning. So once again, going back to the very beginning, we've talked about ketosis, right? What is it? It's a metabolic state. So here's the $1 million question. If we're not in a metabolic state of ketosis, burning fat, what's our metabolic state? This is the number one question, right? And unfortunately, 97% of this country is affected negatively by this. When you're not in a metabolic state of ketosis, you're in a metabolic state of glycolysis. Has anybody heard of that word, glycolysis? Right? Cool. It's not inherently known, right? It's something that we really, really got to dig deep and research. You can't just Google it, unfortunately. Or should I say fortunately? Depends. So, supporting through food, fasting, and stress. This right here is pretty much it when it comes down to focusing on minimizing inflammation and allowing your body to start receiving vitamins and minerals. Okay? And so once again, food is information, and determining what your overall goal is, you gotta choose wisely. Okay? Final words and quotes. I love these three favorite quotes. It's my favorite. Hippocrates, all disease begins in the gut. Right? And then right here, by Plato, I fast for mental and physical efficacy. I love exercising full of carbs. I really do. But on the opposite, I love exercising fasted. Okay? It's different depending on what you're going for in your overall goal. Right here, BJ Palmer. This guy is the developer of chiropractic care. He's my second favorite chiropractor behind Dr. Harmon. Okay? Nature needs no help. It simply needs no interference. Let's take a look at that for a quick second. Nature needs no help to progress. It simply needs no interference. And what's the biggest interference that this country is facing right now? Inflammation. Inflammation from over-consuming processed, high glycemic foods that have no nutrition value, okay? Contain phthalates. Phthalates, another word for those is fillers in like processed foods. Basically what that does, it disrupts the endocrine system. And our endocrine system is responsible for our reproductive hormones. So, flip the switch. You can start today. And the first thing that you can do is simply not specifically minimize your caloric intake, but choose wisely when it comes to when you have the specific foods at the specific time based on your activities. And these are just a couple of my client success stories. We've got my good friend Kaya over here on the right. I just want to tell a quick story about these individuals. Kaya is a 52-year-old guy. He's a good friend of mine, and he's an NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming Master Practitioner. He opens up for like Tony Robbins and Les Brown. And when I first shared this concept with him, he thought I was crazy because he used to load up on his carbs, especially when he went on stage and started speaking in front of people. And now he can't even fathom going on stage on a full stomach. Yeah. And he's doing absolutely amazing. He's 51, 52 years old, and he plays rugby at Compton College in Southern California. Yeah, for fun. Right? Kyle, this gentleman right here, he came and he's like, hey Dave, you know what? I've been focusing on my nutrition for the longest time. I've been in an extreme caloric deficit. I'm exercising. What's wrong? And I go, well, have you ever checked your stress levels? How's it going? He's like, man, I'm constantly stressed. All I do is stress about this, stress about that, but I still exercise. I go, okay, well, what's happening is that your body's holding on to your fat storage because you're constantly elevating your blood sugar levels when you're stressed out. Okay? Jasmine and Jonathan, they are two of my favorite clients because they probably gave me the most questions. They're registered nurses, and everything that I went over with them when it comes to their nutrition program, they were questioning everything. They thought I was crazy. They're like, what are you talking about exercising fasted? what are you talking about minimizing, eating more to lose weight? So different concepts, right? Sarah, this young lady right now, right here, she was 55, she's 5'1", over 300 pounds, and in just 4 months, she lost 105 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. Sheila, she's amazing. She exercises like a beast, but practices breath work to keep her stress levels down. Okay? And then right over here, this is probably my biggest success story. So back in 2019, I opened up a restaurant called Keto to Go, still the world's first and only true ketogenic restaurant. However, in 2021, we stopped doing it and I just went back to coaching. And so in 2019, when I opened up my restaurant and I wasn't needed in the kitchen, I went to go get a job with this company by the name of Profile. As you can see right here in the background, I was coaching him from a company that I work with called Profile by Sanford. And the owner of the business said, all right, David, don't you dare talk to people about low carb. Don't you dare talk to people about high fat. Don't you dare tell people to eat more. Tell them to eat less, low fat, high carb. And man, this guy came to me and he's like, David, I've been here for 8 months now and I haven't lost any weight. What's going on? To make a long story short, he had such amazing success. He lost about 300 pounds in 2 years. And the only reason I didn't get fired is because, well, he had amazing results and he was basically the poster child for that company. But they didn't mention the type of nutrition lifestyle that he lived. So, and this is my good buddy, Will. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight. I really wish he did. Will is an OG of Gathering of Lightworkers. Yeah, he's doing amazing, and I'm so proud of everything that he's overcome. He lost 75 pounds in 10 weeks, and he's lost like another 30 or 40 since. He's doing amazing. I have him exercising in the gym, fasted, and then as soon as we're done with our exercise, he spikes his blood glucose levels with a full cup of potatoes and some foods that I tell most people not to eat. However, as he's spiking his insulin after a workout, that promotes muscle, right? So the more muscle you have, the more fat you burn faster. And then this is me when I had diverticulitis.
Whoa.
And yeah, I weighed about 230 pounds, and 8 weeks later I dropped 50 pounds, and I was really proud and happy and thankful, which is why I just took a deep dive in research and started educating myself. But then shortly after, well, I promised myself I would never do bodybuilding competitions again. I did it in my 20s, but then here at 38 years old, I said, I just dropped 50 pounds. I still have some muscle. And so from here to here, this was 5 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't pull this up to brag and to boast. I bring this up because we live in a world where we're told so much misinformation.
Yeah.
You almost said bull something.
So much.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Last night, I'm ending off with this. Last night, before I went to bed, I was staring at myself in the mirror coming out of the shower, and I was thinking, what's the first thing that I want to talk about? What's the message that I want to get across? And I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I was like, all right, repeat after me. Knowledge is power is bullshit. Knowledge is power is bullshit. And then I'm like, it's true. Applied knowledge is power. And when we just listen to whatever we're taught and don't do our own research, don't get expert guidance from professionals, then it's like swimming upstream. But when we get in the right place with the right people, with the right coaches, we can really overcome so many conditions that this country is facing. So thank you guys so much for coming here today and being a part of Gathering of Lightworkers. Appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Dr. Harmon. Thank you, Phil. And
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
that's it.